All right, I think we're live now, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Just a little uncheck of a checkbox on my end. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live and welcome to the Daily Photography Challenge. It is my pleasure to be streaming to you live today. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist for Adobe, and we're going to be streaming and talking about photography. We're on day 5 of the challenge. I've been getting some great submissions from you guys, and it's been awesome to have you here. So we're going to continue with today. We're going to dive a little deeper into Camera Raw and the Camera Raw filter. And I think you're going to learn some things that are pretty cool to adjust your images. So a few shout outs to the community while we're here. I see Victoria in the house, Austin, Nicole, Juan, welcome everyone, Samuel, Damian, Rod, and great to see you all here. Jordan, Susan, Samuel again. Great to see so many of you. Lucia, and of course the great folks over in San Francisco on Adobe Live. Tim, thanks for moderating and great for being here. And Anna, and I'm just repeating names now at this point. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in a little bit about the community. For those of you who are new, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my computer. And today we're going to take a look at, again, the Photography Creative Challenge. We're in day 5. It completes this Friday, May 24th. And you have until May 26th to put in your submissions. Looks like registrations are closed at this point. But you can still join the conversation, so you can dive in, you can see how we're doing the challenges each day. So today we unlocked the Photo Adjustments Challenge, and we're going to dive right into that. And of course, if you're wanting to get more help along the way and you want to communicate in between the actual challenge days, join us over on Discord. You can just download the app, you can log in no matter what device you're on, and check out the challenges and the entries thus far. All right, let's get started. Let's go ahead and dive into today's challenge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over to Photoshop. That's probably a good place to start. And now that I got Photoshop open, as you know, I've been giving you images to work with for these challenges. And sometimes I've given you images that are either difficult or odd or weird on purpose, like that bad lighting example we did the other day. Today is no different. Today is going to be a challenging image because it's going to challenge you to use different parts of Camera Raw and the Camera Raw filter that we haven't talked about yet. So for those of you who are saying, well, we've been talking about Camera Raw pretty much the whole challenge, today we're going to learn more about it and things you can do that are outside of just global adjustments. So with that said, hey, Paul Tranny, thanks for joining us. Let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to open up today's image, the one that you guys got. And we're going to do a few things to this image. First and foremost, as I mentioned before, one of the most distracting things in your landscape photography will be a crooked horizon. And I can see that this image is kind of tilted going up a little. So we don't want that. What we're going to do first is we're going to crop and fix that problem, and then we'll get into Camera Raw. So we're going to grab the crop tool. And the crop tool may be preset to some, last aspect ratio that you used. Like apparently the last time I used it, I was cropping for a 1080p title for YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that. And I was going to say, well, how come it didn't change anything? Because I'm going to escape out of it and go right back to it. Just click on the image again. All right, so now that it's there, it's clear. You want to just make sure this could be on ratio or anything. You just don't want any numbers in here because we aren't cropping to a specific aspect ratio. We're not even going to crop manually. We're going to crop automatically and straighten at the same time. So here's a new aspect of the crop tool that I don't think I've shown you yet. You can, of course, crop in. We've seen that. You can even pull outside and rotate. We've seen that. I'm going to escape out of that and do it again. But one of my favorite ways to straighten a horizon is to actually use the straighten tool. There's a tool right here called straighten. Duh, that's what it's for, just for that one thing. Now, before we grab it, I want to make sure we got 2 things unchecked. You want to make sure you have content aware unchecked. Remember, we had a little bit of trouble with that on Friday. We don't really need it for this one. But I did try it. It did work. We just don't need it for this one. And delete crop pixels keeps the crop non-destructive. So again, if you want to permanently throw away the pixels you're about to crop off, you know you don't need them, then you can go ahead and check that. But if you don't, you can leave it unchecked. Then all you do is grab the straighten tool and you just simply drag on what should be straight. So that's the line that I wish were straight. When I let go, it just does it. It straightens it for me. I don't have to worry about pulling out a ruler, guessing, looking real close, lining things up. Just pull that along the edge the way I want, and it will straighten it for me. All right, so let's go ahead and click the check mark or confirm that, and now we can get into Camera Raw. So I'm going to switch back to the Move tool for now. And again, we had been talking about the Camera Raw filter. I think I might have mentioned it once, but we're now going to go in and make sure that the, I know, I can't believe these live streams are free either, Pokemon. But anyway, we're going to go in and make sure that our Camera Raw adjustments are non-destructive, meaning that we can always come back and make changes to them. Because that's the beauty of Camera Raw in Lightroom, is that you can always go back and make a change. But in Photoshop, you have a choice. You can make it destructive or not. And by default, it would be destructive. So we're going to go into our filter menu. We're going to come down to convert for smart filters. When I do that, that will convert that layer. And again, that's the beauty of Camera Raw, is that it can be applied to a layer at a time. It will convert that layer to a smart object, basically, so that we can apply any other filters to it, and it will not make that permanent. All right, so now with that said, let's go ahead and go up to the filter menu. And if you've run Camera Raw before, it'll be at the very top under last, it'll be like right here. Don't run that, because that's just saying do what I just did again. What I want is to go down to the actual filter. That's like running it for the first time on this image. So if you've ever been confused by seeing it twice, this is just do the last thing I did again. This is actually start from scratch. So we're going to start from scratch. We'll bring up the filter. Now, it remembers what the crop used to look like, so don't let that bother you. This is just because we did not delete the crop pixels, we see this empty space. Ignore that. What we're really going to get into now is the actual Camera Raw adjustments. Why is my... Why am I grayed out here? It's like a dialog box is open. I can't do anything. All right, bear with me for a second. There we go. Apparently some dialog box was open. I just hit escape to get out of it. Another tip. All right, so anyway, we got this open. And now what I want to do is, I always do this because it can't hurt. It can only save you time going forward. And if it doesn't work the way you want, you can always undo it. I'm just going to go ahead and right here in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and click auto. Because what that will do is all of those sliders below the word auto will move to what our artificial intelligence thinks the photo needs. You can disagree, that's fine, but it will do a lot of the work for you, and then you can go tweak it. So we're going to go ahead and click auto, and I disagree. This was a sunset, and I really don't want my sky that much brighter, but it did some things that I would want. I would want my vibrance increased. I would want my highlights decreased a little. I would want my shadows increased a little. So it did a lot of things I don't want. The only thing I don't agree with is the exposure, and that's okay. Auto is a get me started button. It's not a it's supposed to be perfect button. All right, so let's go ahead and just pull this back just a little bit, because that's a little bit bright for a sunset. And what you're probably, if you've tried this image and you didn't know about selective adjustments, what you're probably struggling with is this is so dark. Like this is just totally trashed, where this is starting to be okay. And that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to take a look at how to fix those kinds of things. All right, but before we do that, we're going to do as much with the global adjustment as we can. So the global adjustment is everything I'm doing here to the entire photo. So what would I do next? Well, I might bring up the shadows a bit more. That will start to bring up this walkway, but not nearly enough. I make sure my contrast is a little higher, not lower. Great. Exposure is about where I want it to be. Whites and blacks, they're okay for now. I'm going to go ahead now and just bring in a little dehaze. Dehaze is one of my favorite sliders in Camera Raw. I'm just going to bring it up a little bit. Now again, you can go too far. You can go the other way, but you don't want to go too far in either direction. So I'm just going to bring it up slightly, maybe a +8 to 10. All right, so vibrance is the colors, great, and saturation is the colors. When would you use one or the other? For people, you tend to use vibrance. For saturation, for landscapes or anything that's not people, you use saturation. If it was a portrait, I would set my saturation back to 0. But for a landscape, I can use a little of both. So here's the problem though. You don't want to go too far with either one because that orange sunset, I don't want it to turn into fire. So in other words, I don't want it to be too bright. I don't want it to be too orange. So you can quickly get there with too much saturation to where it starts to look really, really bad. Like the horizon's on fire. We don't want that. So let's pull it way back. Maybe just a tad bit more saturation. Less is more. All right, so now that we've done that, you're probably saying, well, Terry, you kind of got it better, but it's still not great. This is where the new thing comes in that we're going to learn today, and that's selective adjustments. So all this stuff up here, and keep in mind you've got a million tabs, well not a million, but like 6 or 7 tabs of Camera Raw that we haven't even got into yet. But we're going to go to the second brush. The second brush, the letter K, is the adjustment brush. Now you can make several non-destructive adjustments. And I should say, you can make several selective adjustments. We're going to make our first one to kind of lighten up this area. And the reason we're using a brush is because we want to brush it in. So I'm grabbing my stylus. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say for exposure is right now up to like 0.5. I'm going to take it all the way up to +1. So like 1 stop of light. I'm going to make sure everything else is set to 0. And if you want to quickly get a slider to 0, just double click on it and that will set it back to 0. So double click that, set it back to 0, then we'll put it up to about 1. There we go. So now when I brush, it's not going to really do a lot. So here, let's go ahead and do it. I can barely see a change. It's like really not doing much. But what I'm really trying to do is just get this area painted in and then I'll make my adjustments going forward. Now also I will tell you that because we're working on a JPEG, there are some artifacts that are going to happen. If this were the original RAW file, the artifacts would be not there. But let's go ahead and work with the JPEG we have. Now that I've brushed and it's got that little red dot, that symbolizes that that's the area, this is the control point for this adjustment we're making. So I can go ahead and pump up the exposure more. I don't want to go too bright on the exposure. What I would rather do is start working with the shadows. So let's bump up the shadows in this area. Because again, remember, it is still at night. So this shouldn't be like daylight over here. It should just be brighter. And the purple on the sidewalk, those are the artifacts. Those are the things that we don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that down just a bit. Because again, it is sunset, not sunrise when the sun's not coming from that direction. Let's not make it too bright. And then also you can tend to introduce noise, especially in a JPEG. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some noise reduction to that area too. So it's only reducing to that area that we just painted in. Now, that's about where I want the brightness to be. You can go, it's your choice. You can go more or less, but that's about where I want it to be. Now I want to take care of that purple artifact on the sidewalk. That should not be there at all. There should be no color on the sidewalk. So to do that, and this is one of the things I love about working in this mode, is that your adjustment brush, like I said, you can have more than one. So right now, if I keep changing the sliders or brushing, I'm adding to the existing point. But if I click the new, I'm making a new one. And the new one, I don't want to change exposure. I don't want to change shadows. I don't want to change noise reduction. I want to reduce saturation. So what I can do now is just paint in this area and it will just take the purple right away. And if it's not enough, I can always lower the saturation more. Because all you're doing is you're taking the color out of the sidewalk, which shouldn't have any color in it. And there we go. All right, so now that we got that in place, we're gonna add a new one. We're gonna do another new one. So again, this one's for the whole dark area. This one's just for the sidewalk. Now we're gonna add yet a new one. And the new one's not negative saturation. The new one is going to be bluer temperature. So that's the only thing we're changing here. Why? Because I don't like water that doesn't look blue. So now we can just go ahead and paint in some blue water. Awesome. Yay, blue water. And another trick while we're painting that in is that you can also dehaze it. So you can try and like bring some of that, I don't want to say texture, but bring something, well, we do have new texture sliders, pretty cool. But we can bring some of the, I don't know, some of the detail, that's what I'm looking for. Some of the detail of the water back in. So you can get some of that wave going there. All right, last but not least, I would love to make my sky a little bit more dramatic. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and grab, not the brush, so you have 3 selective adjustments. You have the brush, which is obviously lets you brush where you wanna brush. You have the gradient filter, which it literally goes in a direction that you drag. And then you have the radial filter, which is an ellipse or a circle. So we're gonna go ahead and, thank you, Rod. We're gonna go ahead and grab the gradient filter. So this is one we're gonna pull down from the top. And once again, we want, we leave these the way they are. We're gonna leave dehaze where it is, we're gonna leave temperature where it is. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our sky a little bit more dramatic. So we're just gonna pull down to that. Now, what are we gonna do to make it more dramatic? We're going to drop the exposure, and it works from the top down. So the sky can get more dramatic, more dark, just a little. Not a ton, just a little. And of course, we could dehaze that area even more if we wanted to. And now it's only applying to this gradient. And of course, that can be drug in any direction you want. All right, so with that said, now if we click OK, all of those adjustments have been made to the smart filter. So if we ever want to come back and say, what did it used to look like before we did those things? Turn it off. That's where we were. This is where we are now. Well, I don't really like that sidewalk. I think it should be less noise or darker or whatever. Double click on Camera Raw to get right back to it. Go right back to your adjustment brush. Click on the control wheel for that particular adjustment. You can paint it in more. And you can also say, well, yeah, let's bring the exposure back down of the sidewalk just a hair. So that's the other thing about being able to get back, because we created a smart object or smart filter for this. And that's what makes this really, really amazing. All right, so could we do more? Yes, I have like a second left, so let's do one more. I just want to show it to you. It doesn't really apply to this photo, but just in case you wanted to know how it worked, the radial filter, we're gonna turn off saturation, we're gonna turn off exposure, and we're gonna bump up the, we're not gonna turn off exposure, we're gonna go the other way with exposure, and then we're gonna drag this out. And it might be doing the opposite of what you want. So right now, it's doing the inside. You can say do the outside, so you can choose between those two. But we do want the inside, and we wanna go in, and we wanna just change the exposure just to that ellipse. So this is something that can be rotated. It's something that can be moved around. You can have a little spotlight. Maybe even animate that in After Effects. That's another day. But anyway, there you go. Click OK. And now the tree got a little too bright, but it got brighter. All right, so with that said, at this point, you would save it, and you would save it as a Photoshop file because you want to keep the layers. You want to keep the things you did. And again, that's all non-destructive, so you always can go back and turn that off, turn it on, or get back and re-edit. You also want to export one that you're going to post on Behance for me to look at, or Discord. So you're going to do this by going up to your file menu. You're going to choose export. You're going to save for web legacy. You're going to make sure that you choose JPEG, or you can use the preset JPEG high, either one. And then you're going to go ahead, and this really doesn't need to be any bigger than 1080 pixels wide, unless it's a width thing. It needs to be at least 808 to go on Behance. I've learned the hard way, live on stream. All right, let's go save. And we're gonna save it out to the desktop, and we're gonna save it. And now it's on the desktop. And so when I head back to Behance to create my project, scrolling back up, create a new project, you're going to upload the file, desktop, there it is. It'll upload that beautiful new shot that you just made, either of my photo or yours. You're gonna hit continue, and you're gonna give this a title, Day 5 photography daily challenge. And you're going to go ahead and hit crop's good. Okay, crop and continue. And again, you want to make sure for discoverability that you put in PS daily challenge. You can put in as many keywords as you want, but we need that one. And we're going to go ahead and say tools used, or creative field required, photography. Done. And we're going to say tools used. We're going to say Photoshop and anything else you might have used. And we're going to go ahead and hit publish. And that's it. We will take a look at your entries. And by the way, thanks for all the great entries you've submitted so far. I've been taking a look at them. I've started adding them to my favorite collection. And you guys have been doing an amazing job thus far. Especially I had some fun with the retouching too. That was great. And I will add some to this project as well. As well as I've been liking them on Discord. So with that said, I want to just thank everyone for joining me today. This has been a blast. I've been having fun with these challenges. And thank you guys for your input. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining me. And of course, and today's challenge is, well, I forgot what it's called, but today's challenge was called, oh, let's go back. Someone asked, what's the challenge called today? Today's challenge was called photo adjustments. Adjust an image using the camera raw filter, which is exactly what we did. All right, so up next, I don't think we have, today's Monday, so I don't think we have our Adobe Live today. We'll talk about what's next after tomorrow's stream. But join me tomorrow as well, same time, same channel, and we will continue to have fun with these challenges. And again, one last thing before we head in, let's go ahead and look at some of the work you guys have been submitting. Look at that. Someone's already done it. Great. Cool. You should probably be able to see it. That would be better. All right, great. Cool. Retouching. Awesome. And this is looking at them on Discord. I look at them on both places, Behance and Discord. You guys have been doing great jobs. There's Tony. Good retouching there. Great lighting. Whoever did this, JD. Great lighting example. Love how you brought the sky back out. Love how you brought the clouds back out. All right. So with that said, again, thanks everybody. Stay tuned for more. And I love doing these daily challenges. You guys have been a blast to work with. And I love the work that you're submitting, especially when you submit your own photos like the ones we just looked at. All right. And with that said, I'm going to say goodbye. We're going to give you guys the rest of your day back. So cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow on the next one.